NBA free agency opened up last night, and some of basketball's biggest stars are on the move. Perhaps you've heard. The biggest winners were the Brooklyn Nets. The team signed 10-time All-Star Kevin Durant and 6-time All-Star Kyrie Irving. Other major moves include Kemba Walker to the Boston Celtics, Jimmy Butler to the Miami Heat, and Al Horford to the 76ers. Now, teams committed more than $2 billion to players within the first 90 minutes of free agency. Players cannot officially sign their contracts until Saturday. But joining me from Minneapolis to talk about all of this is Reed Forgrave. He's an NBA writer for CBSSports.com, and I'm sure you've been busy looking at some of the reaction to some of these biggest moves. And trying to kind of, I guess, extrapolate what the strategy is here. So I want to begin with some of the biggest signings of the day. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and DeAndre Jordan joining the Nets. How in the world did Brooklyn pull this off?
Look, it's been rumored basically since the All-Star game back in February that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant wanted to team up and play together in the coming seasons. We all assumed that meant they were going to Madison Square Garden to play for the New York Knicks. But the lesson from yesterday is that culture matters, and a team's culture matters. And frankly, the Knicks are a team that's had a terrible culture ever since James Dolan took over that team. Whereas Sean Marks, the general manager of the Brooklyn Nets, has, with one hand tied behind his back over the past several years, instituted one of the better cultures in the NBA. I know it sounds bizarre that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant would pay attention to things like, hey, Sean Marks made some really smart draft acquisitions at the end of the first round, or he picked off some players off the scrap heap like Spencer Dinwiddie and Joe Harris and turned them into really good NBA players. But that just indicates a winning culture, and that's what Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are both joining.
So then if you're the New York Knicks right now, how are you moving forward? They're coming out of this without any major stars. They do have a few, I guess, what are considered depth players. But what do you make of what they should do now? Is it reassess the culture?
Look, they made some half-decent signings on Sunday and then today. Guys like Elfrid Payton, a point guard who's an excellent distributor, Julius Randle, an excellent young power forward, Taj Gibson, kind of a stalwart veteran in the middle. But if you're a Knicks fan and you're hearing me say these names less than 24 hours into free agency, you're pulling your hair out. I mean, really, this is either James Dolan needs to look inward and say, what have I been doing here? Why is it that the best players on earth don't want to play in Manhattan at Madison Square Garden? Or James Dolan just got to sell the team. It's plain and simple. The Knicks are going nowhere fast. I get that they have some nice young pieces, but this is not where the Knicks want to be. This is not where Knicks fans want them to be. And let's be honest, it's not where the NBA wants them to be. The NBA is a better league when the New York Knicks are a relevant team.
Interesting. I want to talk about some other Eastern Conference teams. You also have the Philly 76ers traded away Jimmy Butler, but they also extended Tobias Harris and signed Al Horford. So what do you make of those moves?
Yeah, the Philadelphia 76ers had a remarkable first day. And if I had told you that on the first day of free agency, they'd lose two of their starters, Jimmy Butler and J.J. Redick, you'd smack your head and be like, oh, what are the Sixers doing? And yet they lost Jimmy Butler and got a guy on a team-friendly contract from the Miami Heat and Josh Richardson, who is just a stalwart type player, a 3-and-D type player, excellent defender. Al Horford, he just is the coach's dream type of player, a guy who does all the right things. This Philadelphia 76ers team, despite losing Jimmy Butler, despite losing J.J. Redick, I think this could be a historically good defensive team. They're going to be so good on the defensive end. And I think they might be a better team than a year ago. That team a year ago easily could have made the NBA Finals.
Now, what about the Boston Celtics? Because they lost both Horford and Irving, but they also signed Kemba Walker. So does Boston still seem formidable as some of the other teams that we've mentioned by now?
I don't think they're a top-tier team in the Eastern Conference, but I think they're right up there in that second tier, at the top of the second tier, if you will, with the Bucks and the Sixers, and perhaps the Raptors, if Kawhi Leonard ends up staying there, forming that top tier. Danny Ainge had grand plans for this offseason, and they kind of went up in smoke when Kyrie Irving became disenchanted and when he couldn't trade for Anthony Davis. But all things considered, what he's signed now, Kemba Walker, not as talented of a player as Kyrie Irving, but the dude is a winner. He fits in well in locker rooms, and I think he's going to fit in way better into Brad Stevens' culture there than Kyrie Irving ever did. And they just announced a signing moments ago that they signed Enes Kanter to sort of kind of replace Al Horford. Now, Enes Kanter isn't Al Horford, but I do think this is going to be a much more functional locker room than the past couple seasons with Kyrie there. So I think the Celtics, they don't have as high of a ceiling, but they have a much higher floor.
Now, you mentioned Kawhi Leonard, effectively the biggest name coming off of this championship with the Toronto Raptors, who has not yet announced where he might go. Who is the favorite to nab him?
Yeah, anyone who tells you they know what's going on inside Kawhi's brain is just a liar. I don't think we really know who the favorite is. My guess, and it's such a guess, it's one of the two LA teams. But look, the Toronto Raptors, I can't imagine a better way to court a guy to stay in free agency than what they did this past season. The culture there, the way they managed Kawhi's injury issues, the way that he got along with their general manager, Masai Ujiri, and their head coach, Nick Nurse. And most importantly, the way that Toronto and the entire country of Canada fully embrace Kawhi Leonard as their country's national sporting superstar. It's going to be hard for Kawhi to turn that down, but Kawhi likes to surf. Kawhi likes to fish. You can't do that on Lake Ontario in the middle of January. You can in the Pacific Ocean.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your guesses there, but as you say, who really knows what the man is thinking? Reed Fulgrave, great to chat. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.